Hey everybody, it's me, Andy.
And I'm Sean.
And this is the Commander's Brew.
This week, Atraxa, Praetor's Voice, with special guest, Josh Lee Kwai.
Welcome back, everybody, to Commander's Brew, episode 69.
Oh, that's right. I hadn't made
I've
that
been waiting for this the whole time. We're in our second week of Commander Month, and guess who we have here? Ladies and gentlemen, Josh Lee Kwai.
How's it? Thanks for having me on, guys.
Yeah, classic how's it right there from the man, JLK.
An honor to get a how's it.
It's an honor to be on your show.
Stoked to get a how's it. Josh, we're so stoked you're here. We tried to get you on when we had guest month, but our schedules did not work out.
Yeah, that's my fault. It gets busy sometimes. You know how it is.
Of course.
And we've been we've been like ships passing in the night, but finally we made it happen. I'm super excited to be on.
Oh man, and we're very excited to have you. Before we get into all of this cool stuff we're going to talk about, I've done it on your show, but now I get to do it here. We get to say thanks for all your support and all your help, man. You've been really a real big supporter of our show.
Big time.
Oh yeah, well, it's easy when your show's so great and you guys are doing such an awesome job, and we're just fans of your show and all your content. And there's a lot of people on our channel who are always asking us, you know, what's the budget options and how do we build budget and a lot of things about budget. And you know, we try to help them as much as we can, but a lot of the time we're like, you know what, you need to talk to the guys over at Commander's Brew because they're the experts about that stuff. And I think you guys have like really filled that role, and it's a role that a lot of people are looking for. So good on you. I think it's good for everybody for just more Commander content out there.
Totally.
Yeah, man. Let's bump this format into number one.
That's right. I think, didn't we just win some Mark Rosewater poll on Twitter?
Yeah, we beat like vintage or something like that.
Yeah, I mean, I already think we're number one, at least in my mind, we're number one.
I voted in that poll, and I already don't remember what it was.
Well, he always does like brackets, so
Yeah.
sometimes I catch it on a weird week when it's like I don't care about either of these two formats. It's like arch enemy and like
Plane chase,
like Winston draft.
Yeah. Oh man, my sweet Winston drafts.
Yeah, I don't know what it was for. I just know that we won.
Yeah.
Sweet. So we won the whole bracket, Commander? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah. Yeah, and we got I know we got second place for like favorite format. We lost to limited by like less than 0.5% though. It was super close.
Which is crazy because limited is like the best, right? Like everyone loves limited.
Yeah. So it's great for guys like for you guys and guys like Jimmy and I, who those are our top two formats, right? Like limited and Commander. I know you guys are the same way. So I'm like most players I think are like us, which is great.
Yeah, that's awesome.
It's the two formats that will never, ever, ever rotate, or you only need like you can get in for one day and get out the next day.
Yeah, it's perfect, and they work really well together.
Mm-hmm.
That's true. Mm-hmm. I mean, it's we got into Commander. We've said this many times, born out of playing limited and not knowing what to do with those cards.
Yep. Yeah, exactly. You want to do something with them, and you definitely don't want them to not become legal in 2 years. So
exactly. People make the same argument for Modern, really, but you just have to play a lot more limited for it and then have it last a lot longer.
Yeah.
100%.
All right. So guys, obviously we're here to do this show. We're doing it on Breed Lethality. That's the deck name.
Yes.
We're talking about this. No one ever remembers the deck names after like the first day of finding out what they are. But we're going to work hard and try and make Breed Lethality live in people's minds forever. Entropic Uprising, I already remember.
Yidris, I know that I just looked it up. Oh, and I already forgot. Saskia is like open hostility.
Yeah, I think that is what it is.
Yeah, because you're very open about who you're saying F you to.
Yeah, that's right. So Breed Lethality, that's Atraxa. That's what we're doing here today. But before we get into that, we have an ad from Wizard's Tower, thewizardtower.com. Let's hear what they got to say.
Hello, I'm a fancy judge on Kaladesh, and I judge artifacts. But I will now judge websites. Next up, wizardstower.com, the Wizard's Tower. Let's see here. Free shipping if I spend $15 in Canada or $10 in the US on singles. That's a passing grade, yes, check. And I can use coupon code Tower of Brews to get an extra 5% off. Yes, check. That's another good thing. Oh, what's this? 3% kickback towards my next order? Well, yes, that's a pass. That's a good check mark right there. You know what? I'm going to give them a pass. They are a quality card store to order magic cards from, and I will be ordering my magic cards from them from now on. Well done, Wizards Tower. See you at the next competition.
What an excellent ad from Wizards Tower.
Yeah.
We for sure know what it was, and everything's fine. Also, real quick, of course, we have Patreon. Of course, if you want to support the show, you can do it that way as well. But really, just listen is all we ever want you to really do. Brew and Brawls at the end of the month every
Last
month.
Sunday of every month, November 27th.
Live on Twitch.
Yeah.
.tv. Yeah, great.
Awesome.
Okay, cool. Now let's get into the meat and potatoes of this meal that is Josh Lee Kwai and Breed Lethality. So Josh, we gave you the headliner of this deck. We gave you Atraxa.
Yes, very exciting.
And then we took the partner. So we took Ishai. So how we've been doing this is that like Sean and I will choose a partner pair, and obviously our guest is doing the headliner commander of the set so far. Anyways, maybe they'll switch. I don't.
Yeah,
think
who
so.
knows?
Tell us about Atraxa a little bit. What's exciting about Atraxa?
Well, Atraxa is exciting because of proliferate. Honestly, Atraxa is the redless commander, so all the colors except red. Has a million abilities, but it's the trigger at the end of the turn. It says proliferate.
Yeah. Now,
so go ahead.
No, I was going to say, it just seems like that seems kind of underwhelming because there's lots of stuff that proliferates, and we're not like, oh, that's crazy powerful. That's crazy powerful. But everyone seems to think Atraxa is crazy powerful.
Yeah, go ahead, Josh.
You get into these arguments, I don't know if this is the right word, but discussions with people where they're trying to figure out what's the most powerful of the new commanders, and it kind of boils down to Yidris, Brea, and Atraxa are the three that everyone sort of has differing opinions on. I think Atraxa is probably not the most powerful, but she's definitely very powerful. Proliferate, the thing about it, I think, is that there's not a lot of effects that for free proliferate every turn.
True.
That's true.
Yep. And this is one of them. And it's your end step also, so it's not like you have to wait for a turn of the table or anything.
Yeah, it's really good, right? You cast her, and then you're unless somebody's got instant speed removal, you're gonna get one proliferate trigger. You don't have to wait to untap with her. There's also downside of that, which is like you don't get your first combat step sort of surprisingly proliferated. If
you don't get extra planeswalker boosts until after your turn.
Yeah, so there's upside and there's downside. I think it sort of evens out. And obviously a 4-mana 4/4 with flying, vigilance, death touch, and lifelink is also I think it's underrated how good that is.
I agree.
Yeah, we got to actually play with these decks yesterday.
Ooh.
We were lucky to get sort of an advanced copy from some friends at Wizards. And so I have actually been able to play. Now, we didn't change them at all, just out of the box.
Yeah.
Sure. Did you pilot Atraxa?
Yeah, we played 3 games. I got Atraxa 1 time. And she's amazing in that environment. If you can cast her on turn 4 or even 5, you're probably going to hit somebody for 8 to 12 and gain 8 to 12 life. And it's just a very, very big swing. I mean, there were the game I played, I didn't even have anything to proliferate for the first couple turns, and she was still just dominating because she's just that good. And she's got vigilance and death touch. So there's a lot of things that still don't want to attack into you also because they don't want to just lose their card for your commander a lot of times. So that combination of vigilance, death touch, and lifelink is surprisingly powerful.
Ooh, when we started seeing the prices for these cards come out, and I saw that Atraxas go up to $13 or something like that, I was like, what is it about this card that's making it $13? And then I was like, maybe it's the Flying Vigilance Death Touch lifelink. And that may or may not be true, but I definitely think it is one of the most valuable parts of her. I think it's, and like you said, I think it is kind of, people are very excited about Proliferate and Planeswalkers and Infect and all this stuff, but I think that those 4 evergreen abilities are definitely something is a little underrated about her.
Yeah, I think you're going to assume that you're going to get 1+1/+1 counter on her, and she's going to make herself bigger and bigger and bigger. So that just gets even uglier.
Yeah, that's
right.
True. Okay.
Well, the funny thing is that actually in one of the other games that we played, one of my friends got the Atraxa deck and then decided to run. We actually sort of mandated on the final game, like, okay, let's play the partner commanders just so that we can try some.
Yeah.
Sure.
And so my buddy picked the exact 2 commanders that you guys built your decks around. So I got to see them a little bit in action also.
Ooh, that's good. Okay, that'll be huge insight. So speaking of those 2. We've got Ishai, Ojutai Dragon Speaker. We didn't even say what Atraxa was. Atraxa's, did we say that she's green, white?
We did cover it all,
black?
yeah. It all
did.
came
Okay.
out.
Great. So Ishai, Ojutai Dragon Speaker is 2 white, blue for a 1/1 flyer bird monk, which I just love that.
Monk tribal.
I love it. Whenever an opponent casts a spell, put a +1/+1 counter on Ishai, Ojutai Dragon Speaker, and it has partner, obviously. So you've got that. So you got your opponents, whenever they cast something, making your commander larger. And then you've got Rayhan, Last of the Abzan, 1 black green for a 0/0 legendary human warrior. And it has when Rayhan enters the battlefield, she gets 3 counters on her. Whenever a creature you control dies or is put into the command zone, if it had 1 or more +1/+1 counters on it, you may put that many +1/+1 counters on target creature.
Yep.
So that's like, you're not really moving them. Like, they do disappear and new ones show up kind of thing.
Oh, that's, yeah.
But like, I mean, that's just the way it has to be worded for the rules. So, but anyways, that's obviously works very well with Ishai. And yeah, you'll see, like, I think because when you take the headliner commander, you've really got a deck really tuned around it. And obviously the same thing when you deal with these partners, but I tried to like, I don't know, really kind of mess with this deck a little bit more around what Rayhan and Ishai do together. So anyways,
Ishai
Yeah.
was I think we in Commander, we tend to sort of like, I don't know, we write off or we sort of underappreciate just like a really big flyer.
Oh, we do all the time.
Yep.
And Ishai, like my friend played it as the commander in one game, and in the game I had Atraxa, I got Ishai out, and both times the card was insane. Now, part of that is because the precon straight out of the deck, we found out, don't have a ton of answers to stuff. Like, they've only got like maybe 3 or 4 pieces of target removal and like a couple of board wipes. But if it, like in both games, it was above an 18/18 flyer. Like,
wow.
They were ridiculous. And everyone's just looking at it going like, what do we do about that? I have to have a chump blocker or something, or I'm just going to die. Like, I don't really want to cast spells now because I don't want to make it bigger. Like, it was insane.
Yeah, and like and with Rayhan, even if you do kill it, those counters are going somewhere.
Yeah, and that actually happened with my buddy where we're like finally like, okay, kill it. And then he's like, okay, so now my scavenging ooze is like a 37-37.
Oh.
You know? You're like, did that make it better? I don't know.
Minor improvement, perhaps.
Yeah.
Yeah, I always say that like a 5/5 flyer, like a 6/6 flyer, like everyone's just like, oh, it's just a big dumb flyer. But that is better than you think. Like,
yeah.
I've definitely seen games where it's like, man, if we just had a removal spell, we could kill this big flyer, but otherwise it's just slaughtering us. And I mean, Ishai is going to be a lot bigger than 5/5 or 6/6 if you play your cards.
Ishai
right.
is going to be way bigger than Ojutai all the time. So like,
That's true,
why don't they change? Like, when does Ishai decide I'm the leader of the clan now?
Yeah, that's right. When it start bullying Ojutai around, it's like, look, I know you're hexproof.
But like, I'm 2020.
Yeah. Also, when you tap, you're not so hexproof, bud. So yeah, out of the box, we're lucky because Josh has played with these decks now. We've already got we already know what this deck does. We're talking proliferate, we're talking counters, and not a lot of answers, which is a very interesting thing. And I think it's obviously built with that in mind, and newer players especially coming into the format and just picking up one of these decks and playing. It's like, oh well, like if we all got these, we get to see everything happen, right? Which is
yeah.
That's fun.
This is definitely the strongest of the 5 decks out of the box. We all thought that after seeing it a couple times in action. It was, I think it won 2 games, and then the third game with the partners, it was the most powerful deck, but we all kind of teamed up and managed to not. It didn't take down that game, but it's very, very, very strong. The synergies in the deck already built in are just on a different level than the other ones, I think.
It's also like maybe it's I'm sure it's a number of different reasons, but red is the weakest color in Commander.
That's a really good point.
And so when you lose just the weakest one, you still have the other 4 strongest colors. So like every other deck in this series is losing a pretty strong color, right? Like you might argue that the white one is also not losing as much as the others, but yeah. That's a factor for sure.
Yeah, I think that's a great point. If you were to score every color as far as a rank from 1 to 5, this deck would have the highest score because it would be missing the red, which would be the 1 rank, you know?
Oh, yeah. Don't tell Jimmy.
The funny thing is when we did our show, we've started our deck review process. It's different than your guys', obviously. Yeah. I was like, Jimmy, what deck do you want to do? I let him pick first, and he chose Atraxa. Yeah. And I was like, that's the one deck with no red in it, dude. And he's like, oh, no.
Yeah, I heard you guys discover that on the show. It was hilarious.
I've successfully managed to corrupt his redness.
Yeah, you've incepted him.
Right. Next level him.
When asking him to do this round of shows, I was going to be like, you have to do Atraxa because you're not allowed red.
Yeah.
See what I stole it out from under him.
Yeah, you did. And I love it because he mentioned he wanted to do it too or whatever.
That's right.
Okay, so all right, so let's get into what these decks are going to do, what these versions of the decks are going to do. So Josh, what's Atraxa going to do? I mean, it's pretty simple. We've already kind of talked about it.
Yeah, Atraxa is definitely +1/+1 counters, make all your guys grow. I actually concentrated a great deal on the foundation parts of the deck. So the ramp and the card draw, which everybody knows are kind of big things for me. And then I tried to find a couple of sort of interesting ways to use the proliferate. And decks like this tend to have deficiencies when it comes to defending against board wipes and, removing threats and things like that. So I tried to cover some of the bases that maybe the deck doesn't right away. Because I think the win condition of get a couple of guys really big and then kill people, that's already exists in the deck. We don't need to upgrade that part of it.
Right.
Good point.
For our side, Rayhan and Ishai, we it's obviously going to be very similar. We want a lot of counters out there, but then we want those counters to not leave. So Rayhan's very important. Ishai is kind of like your bonus commander. He's going to help your strategy a lot, but it's kind of built largely around what Rayhan does. So we want to get those guys out there. We want to generate a lot of +1/+1 counters. And then we want to make one guy indestructible and then board wipe all the time.
Okay.
That might be very hard to do, but I think a controlling strategy like that is going to be pretty tough to deal with. Yep. So let's see if we can do it, basically. And I didn't want it to just be, well, we just put +1/+1 counters on lots of guys. I was like, let's see if we can go deep and make this work, So
that's what Commander's all about.
Exactly. So let's see if we can do it. But first, let's talk about Atraxa. Josh, what is the first category of cards that your deck uses? That you've added, I should say, cards that you've added to this.
Yeah, my first category was ramp, to no one's surprise. The deck has a decent amount of ramp. I think it has about 8 ramp cards right now, which is close to the number we like to be at, which is around 10. I added a few more. There's some cards that work specifically well with Atraxa. The first one is Fertilid. So nice. Fertilid is I did all my pricing here too, which I'm not used to doing, you guys. I should say right away that this was difficult because budget's not something we worry about a ton on Command Zone.
That's right, yeah.
We nod to it. We'll talk about it especially when a card's expensive. We'll say, okay, this one's expensive, but expensive to us is $20. But for the $15 budget, I was really having to geez, okay, no, I can't use that. I can't use that. Oh crap! So it was kind of fun to find some cards maybe that I haven't used a ton or I haven't seen a ton. But I'm like, oh, that one will work. This Fertilid, of course, does go in a lot of decks. Anyway, it's 2 and a green. It's about a 20-cent card. For a creature elemental, it's a 0/0, but Fertilid enters the battlefield with 2 1/1 counters on it. And then you can pay 1 and a green and remove a +1/+1 counter from Fertilid, and then target player searches their library for a basic land card, puts it onto the battlefield tapped, and then shuffles. So Fertilid comes with automatically just 2 rampant growths on it because you can remove the 2 counters, it'll kill the Fertilid, and put in 2 basic lands tapped. But obviously with Proliferate and other things in the deck like Hardened Scales and stuff that give additional +1/+1 counters, you could potentially rampant growth like every turn.
Yeah, pretty much.
Fertilid is tailored for Atraxa.
Yeah, totally.
You want to be able to hit all your colors. You need a wide, so you need to hit lots of basics. +1/+1 counters just growing on Fertilid. Love it.
I also love how on Fertilid it's target player, so you can technically do it to someone else if you wanted.
That's true, and you can sort of negotiate and make deals that way, which is, everybody knows I love to play that way. You're going to get hit by something. You're like, hey, listen, do you want an extra land in play? I can do that for you if you just don't hit me with that thing.
Yeah, exactly.
Let me hit you for 15, and I'll give you a basic.
I'll give you a tapped basic land. Nice deal.
The next one is along the same category. It's Gemstone Array. It's 2 mana. It's a 4 mana artifact. And you pay 2 mana and you put a charge counter on Gemstone Array, and then you remove a charge counter to add 1 mana of any color to your mana pool. So it sort of turns 2 generic mana into 1 mana of whatever color you want.
Later, though, you invest it for later.
Yeah,
exactly. As long as you put 1 charge counter on this thing, then whenever Atraxa's out, she's creating a mana every turn.
Yeah.
But also the really good thing about Gemstone Array is that it doesn't say something that a lot of these cards usually say, which is that you can only use this ability once per turn. You can actually, if you have 12 counters on Gemstone Array, you can just turn that into 12 mana on any given turn. So the ability to save your mana from one turn to the next is often super powerful just in itself because, maybe you just have 2 mana left over. So that means next turn, instead of 6 mana, you got 7 mana because you only cast a 4-drop. Which I find to be, it makes it able to do broken things like cast a 9-drop on turn 6 or something.
It's great.
It's kind of like a superior Krufix. Like instead of just like dumping it as color, I mean, I guess you get a worse exchange rate on it, but it gets to be any color you want.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And way cheaper than Krufix because it's 50 cents for this card. And it also works, and I didn't put these cards in the deck, but something like Stasis, which will stop everybody from untapping. If you wanted to be mean, you could do that. If you have Atraxa, this, and Stasis, well, you can keep Stasis alive forever because you have the blue mana being created every turn and nothing's having to tap to create it. And Atraxa has Vigilance, so you can just kind of ice everybody that way too.
Oh wow, that's a
very easy one card. Like, here we go.
Yep.
I didn't want to come on your show and be like, be as mean as possible, but then I just told everybody that. So be as mean as possible.
No, you know what? We respect people who want to play mean as long as those mean players know that it comes with consequences.
Yeah, exactly.
Sometimes in the game, sometimes out of the game. As in not being invited back.
As in, I'm going to meet you in the parking lot after this, and I hope you...
I didn't mean that.
in our group, it often has consequences in the next game, and the next game, and the next game.
Right. Yeah. That's the fear. Like, the first time I learned that was a thing, I was like, oh, I see.
Oh, that's happened to us a bunch of times. Yeah.
And then the last card in the ramp category, and there's a couple of these cards. There's actually 3, but one's already in the deck. So it's Calciform Pools. It's
the storage lands.
Yeah, the storage lands. But they're specific storage lands, so there's different kinds. Some come into play tapped. I don't like those. No. I really only like the ones with this particular configuration. So they come in untapped. They tap for a colorless or diamond mana. You can pay 1 and tap the storage land and put a storage counter on it. And then you can pay 1 and remove X storage counters from Calciform Pools, and you add X mana in any combination of white and or blue to your mana pool. So, there's 3 things kind of here. 1, it doesn't come into play tapped, and it taps for mana on its own. You don't have to have a charge counter to make a colorless mana. And the other thing is when you remove storage counters, you can remove as many as you want. And you don't have to tap this land to remove the storage counters. You just have to pay 1 mana. And it can pay the 1 mana because it makes colorless mana. So
yeah, that's the part that I always had trouble with when I was first starting out playing Magic, and I saw these lands. It was so confusing to me that I would need to pay from a different source to take the counters off, because that's how I was used to putting them on, and it didn't really click with me that like no, Calciform Pools and all the other ones like it, they're self-contained, except when you want to put something on it. Like everything it does by itself, except to add one on it. That's where
this is clearly the most confusing card to a beginner in the pre-con decks.
Yeah, so there's the black blue one is in there, but the green white and blue white ones are not. So the green white one is called Salt Crusted Steppe, I think.
Ooh,
yes, it is. Yeah.
So
that would go nice with some garlic bread, little salt crusted steppe.
I'd love it.
I would put all 3. They're all really good with Atraxa. You get 1 counter on there. And if you have 2 of those out and a gemstone array, all of a sudden Atraxa is creating 3 extra mana for you every turn.
Yeah.
That's untenable. You're just going to win that game because you're going to have so much more stuff that you can play every turn than everybody else.
And it's because you can take them off in groups. Right?
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, that's like the vivid lands are good at always being able to make every color for you, but you can never get more than 1 out of a vivid land.
Right. Exactly. That's why I think vivid lands are fine in this deck, but they're not great. They come into play tapped, and like you said, you can only make 1 mana. And the thing is, like, you're creating a ramp card out of one of your lands. Like, you just basically have created like a card that's going to ramp you in a slot in your deck that would normally be reserved for just like a mountain. Not mountain because she's rampless, but
the only one.
Yeah.
You had a 1 in 5 chance.
Yeah, you had a 1 in 5 chance of naming anything relevant there, and you did not do it.
The pitfalls of being a podcaster.
Okay, wicked. Yeah, I love that. Yeah, the ramp being contained on the land. That is so huge.
Just love it.
So let's take a look at Ishai and Rayhan though. Let's see what I did with this. And like I said, what I did with this is kill your own guys, but make 1 guy really huge, and maybe do that with board wipes and stuff like that. And another way to do that, though, and you'll see that this will pay off eventually down the line here, is one of the first cards I thought about was Carrion Feeder. So Carrion Feeder is 1 black for a zombie. It's a 1/1. It says, it can't block, which stinks, but when you sack a creature, sacrifice a creature, put a +1/+1 counter on Carrion Feeder. So I guess, like, one of the things I envision doing with this deck is getting a couple guys out there and then swinging in, and then wherever they block, you just sacrifice that creature and then move those +1/+1 counters over to a guy that's going to get through. And then if Carrion Feeder itself dies, it's going to have a lot of +1/+1 counters on it as well. So you're just generating +1/+1 counters on the battlefield somewhere, and as long as we get the right stuff, like, we can keep those +1/+1 counters on the battlefield and make it easier to get them through. So that's the plan, right? So Carrion Feeder helps with that.
It's funny because Carrion Feeder, when you describe it in that way, where you attack with a bunch of stuff, and then whichever ones they block, you sort of sack those and put all the counters, on the thing that's unblocked. That actually reminds me a lot of Arcbound Ravager, which is a linchpin in one of the strongest decks in Modern. So that strategy itself is like super powerful.
It can be really it can be like an all-in strategy, but when you have green and black, especially in your deck, which we do obviously, the recursion is also there. So hopefully that it's not as all-in as it sounds. Next card is a new one. It's from Kaladesh. It's a Durable Handicraft. 1 and a green for an enchantment. It says whenever a creature enters the battlefield under your control, you may pay 1 generic. If you do, put a +1/+1 counter on that creature. And then it has 5 and a green, sacrifice Durable Handicraft, put a +1/+1 counter on each creature you control.
I always forget that ability is on there in the limited format.
Yeah.
Always.
That's like that's very important in the limited format.
It is. I always, like, I've blown myself out on that a few times where I'm like, okay, I got profitable attacks. Look, there we go. And he's like, +1/+1 counter on all my team. Oh, wait.
Oh, I thought you meant like you had it and you forgot to use it. No, that's even worse then.
Yep.
Yeah, that sucks.
No, I'm very stupid.
The Handicraft is like a slightly like worse version than a couple other cards that already come in this deck. But I actually put it in there mostly for the sacrifice it, add +1/+1 counter to all the creatures, as I feel like it'll create more counters that way. But either way, you're pretty happy to see this card come down on turn 2 in a commander game, and because it's just going to be adding +1/+1 counters to pretty much anything you cast after it.
I actually considered, I had this on my list for a long time, and it was probably like, we added about 15 cards, and it was probably like my 17th card for the Atraxa, because just getting a counter on Atraxa as she comes in seems super great, because then she's self-contained from that moment forward, even if you don't have anything else to proliferate.
Yeah, this is a good card. I don't know if we used it, but in our imaginary pretend Marquesa was green. Remember that?
Right.
Like, this is a crazy card in that deck. The next one is a card I did not know existed until I looked for stuff like this. It's called Solarian, and it's a 7-mana colorless artifact with Sunburst, which means it comes into play with a +1/+1 counter on it for each color of mana used to pay its cost. So obviously in this deck we can have this be a 4/4 when it enters the battlefield, right? So 7 mana for a 4/4 doesn't seem that great. But the other ability it has on it is tap and double the number of +1/+1 counters on Solarian. So he's like a Vorel of the Hulkblade, but only for himself. However, with the way we play this deck, he's doubling the number of +1/+1 counters just out there, which is all we care about. So for simply tapping, we can have this be an 8/8 on the next turn and so on. And maybe move those counters over to Ishai once we're ready to get in and swing with them, right?
Well, even with your strategy you mentioned of just attacking with the team and seeing who gets through, it seems very easy to make a hit that will just be lethal in no time. Right?
Yeah.
Let's say you got 10 counters on Solarian, you got Karen Feeder out. It's like, okay, great. Oh, this guy's not blocked? Cool. Double my Solarian to 20, sack him, put the 20 here, sack Carrion Feeder, and then put another 10 on him, and that's lethal for you.
That's true, yeah. And
it's not hard.
If it's your commander, you don't
even need to go
work
that
that hard.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Ooh, and that turns...
I like this because it's hard to see too. It's like everybody can know exactly what all your cards do and not see that type of line. So it's easy. It's easier to sort of like get them in a way where they don't see like this succession of plays that causes you to like sack this guy, put the counters here, double the counters, then sack him, then put all those counters over there. Like that's kind of hard to see. So that's a great way to sort of get him out of nowhere. Yeah.
And like, it's not the most, solid plan. I feel like there's definitely ways to disrupt this plan, but like, let's aim in that direction. And then let's see how we can try and protect it. Well, we'll get to that in a second. Though.
The greatest trick the devil ever pulled was making people not realize the combo was there the whole time.
I thought you were right in front of you.
I thought you were going to say was pretending he was Al Pacino the whole time.
Also true.
Also true. Josh, let's get back to Atraxa. What else? What else we got?
So the next category is more counters fun. So fun with counters. So yeah, there's ways to use the counters. I think obviously make a guy really big. This deck can still do that, but I was looking for some ways that you can do. You can sort of have another avenue of attack or have other angles that your deck can sort of have some versatility to it. So the first one is Simic Manipulator.
I love this guy.
Yeah, super, super good. Not an expensive card. I think it's like, what is it? 25 cents.
Yeah, it's like a gumball.
Yeah, it's 1 and 2 blue for a 0/1 mutant wizard. It has evolved. So evolve says whenever a creature enters the battlefield under your control, if that creature has greater power or toughness than this creature, put a 1/1 counter on this creature. So it's a 0/1. Anything you cast is going to evolve it the first time, and most things will do it a couple of times. And then it has an ability, an activated ability. It's a tap ability, another thing I love. You tap the Simic Manipulator, remove 1 or more +1/+1 counters from it, gain control of target creature with power less than or equal to the number of +1/+1 counters removed in this way. So if it's got 3 counters on it, you tap it, remove 3 counters, you can take control of something with 3 power or less.
Right.
And of course, proliferating.
But the thing, you proliferate. Also, you keep that creature. Like, that's yours now.
Yep.
Simic Manipulator didn't go away, still there. It doesn't remain tapped like a lot of things. It untaps. Mm-hmm. You play another creature, proliferate it, then steal another creature a couple turns later.
Yeah, that's a good point. What's the card we always see lately in our meta? The one that's like an opponent chooses a creature type and then you just can't take that.
Oh,
oppressive something like
Callous Oppressor.
Callous Oppressor. That's right. This is like not. It's different. It's in the same realm, obviously, but you get to keep it. You don't need to keep a tap down, and then you can evolve them some more and proliferate them some more and keep using them. So like you obviously have that thing where it's like, oh, I can't take a 10/10 with my Simic Manipulator, probably, because it's unlikely that it's stuck around that long. People are very afraid of this card when it comes down, and I don't even see it played that often, but whenever I have, it's like, oh, we got to kill that. It's like, yeah, I guess you're right. We do have to kill that.
People do not like having their stuff stolen.
They hate it. I hate it.
Yeah.
Stealing a commander is the most insulting because it's like, that's my
Turn
whole
off your
deal.
whole deck.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, so be prepared for the Simic Manipulation.
Ooh.
The next card is Chasm Skulker.
Oh, yeah.
So I was talking earlier about how one of the issues with decks like this is you make a big guy or you make a few big guys, and then they board wipe, and you're like, because you don't have a lot of defense against it. Obviously, you can add like counter spells and some stuff like that, but one of the good ways to counter that is have some creatures that you actually like. It gets worse for them if they die sometimes.
Right.
So Chasm Skulker is a 2 and a blue for a 1/1 Squid Horror. It says whenever you draw a card, put a +1/+1 counter on Chasm Skulker. And then when Chasm Skulker dies, create X 1/1 blue squid creature tokens with Island Walk, where X is the number of 1/1 counters on Chasm Skulker. So, you've drawn a few cards, you've proliferated, you've moved some counters around, all of a sudden they board wipe and you get like 12 1/1s. And the Island Walk, surprisingly, especially in a world with 4-color commanders, surprisingly relevant.
Yes, for sure. And especially when you can maybe put counters on all of those guys and make those even bigger. Like,
yeah, you definitely have ways in the deck. Like, what if Cathar's Crusade is out when you do that? Now they're 13/13s with Island Walk.
Exactly.
Exactly. And the last one is very similar. It's a Hangerback Walker.
Yep.
This one's. I think both of these are about $2 actually. They're some of the more expensive cards that I chose. So Hangerback Walker is an artifact. It's a 0/0 for XX. So you pay 2 mana. It's a 1/1. It comes into the battlefield with a +1/+1 counter equal to X. So if you pay 2 mana, it's a 1/1. 4 mana, it's a 2/2. 6 mana, it's a 3/3. Blah blah blah. But it says when Hangerback Walker dies, create a 1/1 colorless Thopter artifact token with flying for it. For each 1/1 counter on it. So if it's a 3/3, you'll get 3 1/1 flyers. And then you can pay 1 and tap the Hangerback Walker to put a +1/+1 counter on it. So if you've only got 6 mana, you play it, it's a 3/3. But then from then on out, you can tap it and pay 1 and make it a 4/4, then a 5/5. So it grows on its own. I like cards that are self-contained like this.
Yeah.
Chasm Skulker is similar in that if Atraxa is not out, it's still growing. You're drawing a card every turn. It's still doing something. You're going to maybe play other cards to draw you cards. Hangerback Walker, same thing. You're going to slowly grow it over time. It's not doing nothing by itself.
No, absolutely. And this is a great guy to get down early, and then you're just investing 1 mana per turn, and you're actually getting a better return than if you just cast it as a big guy later, right?
Correct.
What I love about...
Sorry.
What I love about this category you've put together, so far, every card you've mentioned gets the first +1/+1 counter on its own without extra cards assistance.
That's very important, I think. It was one of the things I saw when I played the Atraxa deck was that you needed to get it going, right? So sometimes if you cast Atraxa, then you might even cast a creature or two, and it's like, well, nothing's getting that engine going because I just need to place 1 counter, and then the proliferate will do the rest, but it's getting that first counter on that might be a problem. So I think it's important that you try and play as many cards as possible that can do that on their own.
And like I mentioned earlier, the episode we did where we pretended Marquesa was a Bant commander. Like all the cards I picked for that deck are cards that Atraxa just doesn't need. You don't need any other help. Those guys all enter with +1/+1 counters on them. They do stuff with +1/+1 counters. They love having more. So it's like it's a very similar strategy actually. I love that they printed the commander that would even be better than Marquesa in that. Okay, let's check back in with Ishai and Rayhan though. So like I said, we got the strategy. we want to have all these +1/+1 counters out on the battlefield, and then let's try and melt them down and put them on one guy with Rayhan's ability, or use Ishai.
Melt them down.
That. Well, one great way to do that is to make one of them indestructible, so that obviously we got to protect the guy that has all the counters on it. But also, if we board wipe, which is a big part of the strategy, it'll leave one creature, and that one creature will get all of the glorious +1/+1 counters. We're putting all of our eggs in one indestructible basket. And I don't know, that seems okay to me.
That is
the basket's
almost
indestructible.
And the eggs are +1/+1 counters.
Yeah, exactly. And actually, so Dune Blast already comes in this deck, which is great. So it's already like built for this.
Oh man, perfect.
So how are some ways to make things indestructible? Well, we have lots. We've covered it a lot on the show, how to make the auras that do it, and the instants that do it. But here's a couple that we haven't mentioned probably in a while. And first one is Ready and Willing. This is a split card. Now, I have this card. I remember opening this in Dragon's Maze and being like, this card's really cool. And then being like, I'm definitely putting this in the commander deck. And then, of course, never did because, I don't know, it just never had a home. It didn't really make a ton of sense.
Not a lot of obs on commanders.
But I jammed it into this deck, and I think it's okay. So here's what it is. Ready is 1 green-white, and Ready says creatures you control are indestructible this turn. Untap each creature you control. So this makes your whole team indestructible, which isn't really what you're going for, but it's still helpful for sure, right? And then you got Willing over here, which is 1 white-black, and it says creatures you control gain Death Touch and Lifelink until end of turn. So you untap all your creatures, they're indestructible, and they get Death Touch and Lifelink. So that's pretty good. You want that in a token strategy. That's okay. Like I said, this one isn't exactly perfect for the strategy I'm talking about, but I just wanted to mention it because I never will ever again get to mention it.
You fuse those two together, scary on your opponent's attack step.
Yeah. The next one I've got here, which I'm surprised we haven't talked about in a long time, is Bastion Protector. 2 and a white. It's a human soldier. It's a 3/3, and it says commander creatures you control get +2/+2 and have indestructible. So, commander creatures.
We have 2 now.
We have 2.
Ooh, I
It's like
forgot.
they knew.
Wow. I never even thought about that. There's a whole cycle of these from last year's commander precons, right? Each color had one of these, right?
Really? Which one? What are the?
That said command. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm wrong about that. But I never even thought about that ramifications of I've got 2 commanders. So
Yeah.
Wow.
Holy cow.
Wow.
So that's pretty cool.
Very
That's
cool.
super cool. That's great.
Then we can choose, after we board wipe, we can choose which one gets it, whether it's Rayhan or whether it's Ishai. It's probably going to be Ishai. They work in tandem like that. So Bastion Protector is a great card, and I haven't seen any of us run it yet. I haven't seen anyone online really run it, or I'm sure people are, but
There's
I don't know.
too many great commander cards.
Yeah, there's too many now.
You just can't fit them all in.
Yeah.
Can we?
I don't know
could
if
we
this
have
happens with you guys, but we find it takes quite a while for cards, and I'm going to call this a new card, even though it's a year old, to sort of filter in. Because what happens is Bastion Protector probably made it into a couple of people's decks in our group. Mm-hmm. Everyone's got 5 or 6 decks, or some people are crazy like me and have 20. And so then how many times have you played against the deck they put Bastion Protector in? And then what are the chances that they drew and played it in that game that you play? You know what I mean?
Yep, totally true, yep.
Yeah, it takes a while before you see a card very much, unless it's so good, so Cyclonic Rift or something.
True.
Yeah, unless it goes viral.
Unless it goes in every deck, right? And Bastion Protector
exactly.
arguably does not go in every deck.
Right.
But it's a great one in this one. And then finally, you can also just have indestructible creatures if you want, right? That also helps. So, I just picked one that is good. I probably should have picked a different one than this, actually. But Creepy Doll is a great card, right? So whether or not you get the counters or not, this one is going to be good no matter what. It's the 5-mana artifact. It's a 1/1. It's indestructible, and it says whenever a Creepy Doll deals combat damage to a creature, flip a coin. If you win the flip, destroy that creature. It deters attacks. It's a fun creature to have out there. So that's all good. Another good one though is actually what's the lion? I can't remember his name now. Fleecemane Lion. Right?
I don't know
that's
that
what
one.
it's called. Yeah, Fleecemane Lion is a decent one to get started because it's
yeah.
green-white. It's only 2 mana. It's a 3/3. It has monstrosity for 5. And when it is monstrous, it's hexproof and indestructible. So it's even tougher to remove. So you get all your counters on this guy, they're basically staying there forever. Yeah, so indestructible, right? A couple ways to do it, a couple ways to like pinpoint it. We got the auras in there, we got indestructibility and all that sort of stuff. But
So the survivor of your board wipes will probably have like 30 counters on them.
ideally, I mean that's the goal, right?
I don't think that's hard. I think that's very easy.
Right on,
Yeah,
man.
that seems totally doable. It also seems like, if you just pick your spot and you do it when, when most people are tapped out, there's a pretty good chance you just KO somebody, right? You're just like, boom, blow up the world, except for this one guy who's like dusting the dust off his shoulders and then grows into like a 50-50 and is like, which one of you is dying?
Yeah, and it seems like it might come a little out of nowhere for people. They might see I have 4 or 5 creatures or 3 or 4 creatures. They've each got 2 +1/+1 counters on them. That's not that scary. One of them's Ishai, and then all of a sudden they're all gone except Ishai, and now he has 10 counters on him, and now that's very scary.
I think the takeaway is if your opponent has Rayhan out, the question you need to be asking is how many +1/+1 counters total you got?
Yeah.
Start
You gotta
asking
get that question a lot.
keep track of that.
Okay, so the last category is cool stuff, because we all like cool stuff. The first one I want to talk about is Sage of Hours. So this kind of made the rounds around when the last Azuri came out, and I think a lot of people sort of found out about this card and how broken it is. And in this deck, it could be equally so, probably in your deck too. It's a 1 and a blue for a 1/1 creature, human wizard. It has heroic, which means whenever you cast a spell that targets Sage of Hours, you put a 1/1 counter on it. And then it also says remove all 1/1 counters from Sage of Hours. For each 5 counters removed this way, take an extra turn after this one.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, this card is insanity, especially if you ever get 2 turns out of it, like forget about it, which is not actually that hard. Remember that the Atraxa deck, even though Atraxa's the lead singer, as we say, it still has Rayhan and things like that in the deck.
Yeah.
So you can still pull off these crazy things where you put 40 counters on it, remove them, and take 8 extra turns.
Oof.
Holy cow.
Yikes. And then in that span, probably build up enough to take even more turns. And like that's obviously the way it works with Azuri, right? Like you just never, you take infinite turns then.
I don't know if the deck has a way to go technically infinite, but yeah, if you take 8 extra turns, you're going to play 8 turns. And in 8 turns, you can probably put another, 50 counters on Sage of Hours, because you're not going to have to worry about, if they can't stop you from taking the 8 extra turns, they probably can't stop anything you're going to do. So
yeah, you're at least going to go near infinite. It seems like if you got the right board state for it.
We don't need to go infinite. We just got to go till we win.
That's
yeah, exactly.
It,
Exactly.
Good
So
call.
that card's super, super powerful. Yeah, I like it in this deck. Another one, and this could go under the ramp category. I just think it's so good that we can talk about it. It's the Gyre Sage.
Yes.
This is 1 and a green for a 1/2. Has evolved, like we talked about earlier, so it grows as bigger creatures come into the battlefield. But it also says tap and add green to your mana pool for each 1/1 counter on Gyre Sage. So as it gets bigger, it gets 6, 7, 8, 9 counters on it. It starts tapping for 6, 7, 8, 9 mana.
Yeah, I love Gyre Sage. And then also though, like the great thing, we all know this about Gyre Sage, but you're putting 6 and 7, 8 +1/+1 counters on it. It's not just
Charge
counters or
yeah.
something.
Right.
Like, this also becomes a threat the larger it gets. And I've definitely swung at people with an 8/8 or whatever, an 8/9 or a 9/10 Gyre Sage before.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, because at a certain point, you don't need more mana.
Yeah.
You've either cast all your cards, you have enough lands in play, and you're like, at that point, Gyre Sage turns into a huge killing machine.
Yep.
It almost seems like we need to up the deck size to just fit all this cool stuff in.
Yes. Definitely.
like one day we're gonna wake up and the format will be 150 cards.
Yeah. Like super.
It's already hard enough.
Super Canadian.
Yeah.
Commander. Or
like
something.
10 years in the future, like 200 card decks, 5 commanders allowed in the command zone.
Battle of Wits. Like what's it called?
Games take 12 hours long.
Yeah.
Yeah. But that's okay because days are 30 hours long now. So
And we live on Jupiter.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
We've
yeah.
moved to Jupiter.
yeah, every card is an oversized card.
Yeah, they stopped printing regular size cards. They're all oversized.
because of human growth hormone, we're actually all larger, so the cards seem the same size.
Relatively
Yeah.
they're the same size to us.
They're actually all that like 3D thing. How like, you know, there's like special glasses you put, and then like you hold a card, and there's like a little guy floating over it.
Oh yeah.
Oh,
You got that going on.
Oh yeah, it'll be like that game in the Millennium Falcon where like yeah, exactly. So my Gyre Sage will actually like holographically march on over and slaughter, you know, whoever you assign to block it.
Yep. There is already a card game that does that.
Really?
If you have the right, like, it's crazy. Like you need like a VR setup and all that. But like it's like when like I said, like there's that stuff for cameras. It's like not a green
QR
screen,
code.
Yeah, something like that where it's like, oh look, I hold this card, and like now on the plane of the card above it, like there's like an actual 3D little creature or something.
It's like that alternate reality thing.
Yeah, it basically is that. Yeah, it's like that's totally what it is.
Cool.
Someday,
card just tells it where to
that's what you have
go.
to look forward to.
It's like
someday.
battle chess.
Oh yeah. Oh, I can't wait. It's gonna be great. What's your other dude?
Yeah, the last card in my cool stuff category is Gerard Golgari Lichlord. So Gerard cost black, green for a 2/2. He's a legendary creature, zombie elf. Gerard gets a +1/+1 counter for each card in your sorry, not a counter. Gerard gets +1/+1 for each creature card in your graveyard. The counter thing can get confusing with this deck.
Yeah, totally.
But the really big thing is Gerard has an activated ability, which is you pay 1 a black and a green, you sacrifice another creature. Each opponent loses life equal to the sacrificed creature's power.
That's huge.
And then that's the big one. And there's a third ability, which is you can sacrifice a swamp and a forest and return Gerard from your graveyard to your hand. So you can recur them at the cost of sacrificing 2 lands. The big one is the sacrifice a creature, and then everybody loses life equal to the sacrificed creature's power. This is, you know, we talk about this a lot in the command zone, which is this idea that, yes, your deck has a main game plan, and ours is, you know, put a bunch of +1/+1 counters on a couple of creatures, make them big, swing out, win that way. But there's going to be times in Commander where people play cards that you're just not really ready for.
Yeah.
Stuff like, you know, Propaganda, Ghostly Prison, stuff like that. But, you know, Glacial Chasm's a big one in our group. Constant Miss. Both just sort of stop attacks. Mm-hmm. And they stop them for a long time. So you're just looking down the barrel of not being able to pull off your big game plan. And in those instances, it's great to have a card that can win through a different angle. And Gerard says, well, I can't attack you, but I can sack the 2 big guys and just kill everybody that way.
This is a great card in my deck also.
Yeah, no doubt.
We're happy to sacrifice our guys and keep making the one guy remaining bigger. And
yeah,
bigger
like
and bigger.
just Rayhan, right? Like just with Rayhan, like you don't even need to branch out of Golgari. Like sack the one with most counters and they move to the next guy. Now that guy's twice as big. Sack that guy. The next guy gets even bigger.
Yeah, holy.
Yeah, you create these chains where like you're sacking 3 guys, but they're actually, it's almost like you're sacking all the guys every time.
Yeah.
The last ability you're probably not going to use a ton in a 4-color deck.
Yeah, exactly. But it might come up. It might be a point where like
it's nice that it's there.
I mean, there's going to be points in games where you can just win if you get Gerard out. So
yes, that's
in those
totally
instances, you know, in those instances, it's like, well, I sack 2 lands, I get them, I play them, and I activate, and I win.
Yep, definitely. This guy just really works. Okay, so finally with the Ishai and Rayhan bit, I was thinking, like, what's the main way to disrupt this plan? And it's like, well, it's like exiling things. And the more Commander you play, whether you're new to the format or whether you've been around for a long time, the more you play, the more exile effects you're going to see. Because people just end up going, well, I played this Doomblade when I first started, but like it gets increasingly useless.
Yep.
Whether I'm against a black deck, or B, the thing is indestructible, or the thing, you know, whatever it is that's stopping it from being destroyed, you'll see that more often, and exiling becomes increasingly the way to deal with things. So in that case, all right, and in some other things too, I found that maybe one way to protect our strategy here is to have instant speed creatures appear if we want them to, right? So it's like, oh, I'm going to get this guy. It's like, oh, no, you're not. I'll make an instant speed creature. Then it's going to die or get exiled, or I'll sacrifice it or whatever.
Yeah.
But here's a way to take care of it. So listen, these cards are maybe not great, but like maybe they're going to work. We'll have to test them out and see. But here's what I'm talking about. I'm talking about Selesnya Charm, which is a modal card, so it's actually good in different situations. So it's green and white. You get to choose one. It's an instant. It says target creature gets +2/+2 and gains trample until end of turn. That can be relevant when you've got a giant, flying Ishai out there who's got commander damage.
That's
on him.
amazing.
So that's useful. Exile target creature with power 5 or greater, which is, of course, that's good. Right?
That's great.
You're probably going to see a couple of those creatures over the course of a game. And then the reason that I put it in here is create a 2/2 white knight creature token with vigilance, which is maybe like the least useful version, but also is useful. If your last guy is about to get killed or whatever, you can sack it or whatever, and then have those +1/+1 counters appear on something.
On the white knight with vigilance,
Which is just like a placeholder, right? Like we're just holding that place until we can get a better thing out there, and then the 2/2 white knight can die. We don't care.
yeah, the creatures in this deck need to understand they don't own +1/+1 counters; they just rent them.
Exactly. The +1/+1 counters are what is most important out there. So protect them at all costs. Another one that does a similar thing to this, but is very like abusable.
I love this card.
Sprout Swarm. Sprout Swarm is 1 and a green for an instant with Convoke, so that's pretty cool. It has buyback 3, which is also super important. It's just put a 1/1 green Saproling creature token into play. So the more Saprolings you get out, the freer this card is, and you constantly have it in your hand because you're buying it back, and it's just great. It's really, really great. And the fact that it's at instant speed is you can always save those +1/+1 counters from pointed removal if your opponents have it. Finally, another quick one. Not as good as Sprout Swarm probably, but Midnight Haunting is 2 and a white for an instant that puts 2 1/1 white spirit creature tokens with flying onto the battlefield. So here you get 2 little tokens, but they're flying, which can be very good. So if you're saving 20 counters, I'm pretty happy to have them on a flying creature.
I think that these, although are tiny effects normally, will be very big when you pull them off.
You think so?
I think I think the amount of counters you're going to be dealing with on average will be very high.
It's very important to keep those counters out there because your whole strategy really revolves around them.
Yeah, like I don't think we're talking 8 to 10 counters. I think we're talking like 20 to 30 counters.
Well, that sounds great. But that's everything. Those are not everything, but that's what the decks are going to be doing. That's what we're going to try and aim them towards.
I really like Selesnya Charm. I just want to touch on that again. I think this is a great addition because all 3 modes actually seem awesome. You know, one of the problems you have when you have like a 40/40 creature is just people will just chump it all day. But if you can give it instant speed trample, that's another way to get somebody out of nowhere. And combat tricks are just so rare in Commander that nobody, you attack with your 40/40. If you just kind of sigh like, I know you're going to chump it, but I got to attack, right?
Oh, I always do that.
And then they block with their 2/2, and you're like, I give it +2/+2 and trample. You take 40, and they're like, oh crap! Like no one saw that coming.
Yeah.
Obviously, exile target creature with 5 or greater is going to be probably the mode you use the most. And then just the added utility of being able to sometimes. This is a really interesting way to attack the problem of having your 30 counter creature. Somebody points swords to plowshares at it. I like that as an idea of like, okay, I sack it in response and put it onto this thing. Yeah,
exactly. That's what we want to do against those effects for sure. So we got them all out there. We know what we're doing. Now, after standing back and looking at the cards we've added, what are the 3 stars of the deck? Right, 3 stars of the deck. Stuff that works the best.
The 3 all-stars.
The 3 all-stars, the ones that are working the best with this strategy. Josh, what are your 3 stars, starting with number 3?
Oh, beginning with number 3. Okay.
Yeah.
Number 3 is Etched Oracle. So this is a 4-mana artifact creature wizard. It has Sunburst, which your Solarian also had. I think Sunburst in general just good in both of these decks.
Yep.
Sunburst says this enters the battlefield with a +1/+1 counter on it for each color of mana spent to cast it. So hopefully usually it's going to be 4. And what you can do is you can pay 1 and remove 4 +1/+1 counters from the Etched Oracle, and then target player draws 3 cards.
Yes.
So it kind of comes with an Ancestral Recall attached to it.
Yeah, sort of, yeah.
Again, this is obviously really good with Proliferate and other effects that are going to bump the counters on it, hardened scales, things like that. because you can get into these loops where you just get to do this every other turn, or maybe even every turn. Just pay 1, draw 3 cards. Because if the Etched Oracle has more than 4 counters, then it's going to live through it when you take off 4 and still be around to do it again later.
Yeah. I put this in an Azuri deck, and I felt really good about it.
Yeah.
Oh, man.
That's a good reason to feel good.
You know what I mean?
That's just unlimited ancestral recalls. Is that good?
Yeah, that seems good, right?
Yeah. Is unlimited of a banned card good? Yeah.
It seems good. Do you go to your number 3, or do I go to my number 2?
You'll go to your number 2, but after this, I'm going to say, have you thought about this as an Atraxa build? Sean and I have talked about this, but Atraxa experience counters. Put all the experience counter commanders in there, and then have cards like Etched Oracle just be complete bonkers because you have Azuri and Atraxa and all these guys.
Yeah, I think that could be. I don't know if all the experience counter commanders work together, but definitely Azuri and a couple other ones probably.
The 3 that you get would be
Azuri, which you'll get counters easily.
Yeah.
You'll get Marin. Which we're doing a fair number of sacking here, so that's good. And we'll get Daxos, which we won't cast a lot of enchantments, but he's just there to take advantage of having 20 experience counters and just churn out 20 creatures.
Exactly.
It could be really good. It could definitely be really good.
It could be interesting. It feels like a bit of a Josh Lee Kwai deck in which I've got this 4-color commander that does something that helps, but really my commanders are stuck in the deck somewhere.
Yeah.
And I got to pull them out.
Yeah. Well, I think that could definitely be a way to go. It's definitely interesting.
I would definitely try and build that.
Definitely.
Anyways, okay. What's the number 2 star of your deck?
It is Lux Cannon. Lux Cannon is 4 mana for an artifact. You tap it to put a charge counter on Lux Cannon, and then you can tap it to remove 3 charge counters and destroy target permanent. I think this is the most expensive card that I picked at $2.75. I do think it's worth it.
Permanent.
I have a friend.
Destroy target permanent.
Yep.
Get out.
That part of it's very strong because the versatility of destroying anything you want is just it's Vindicate, right? Or sorry, it's Terminate.
No, it's Vindicate. You're right. Vindicate's permanent.
It's Vindicate. Which one's got the TIE Fighter on it? I always forget.
That's Vindicate.
That's Vindicate.
Yeah.
It's Vindicate, and it's an instant speed once you have the charge counters. And I think once you get a single charge counter, it's not very hard to sort of bump it, again, maybe every other turn or if you're really, really going every turn. Yeah. And you can start, you can ice lands if you feel like it.
Yeah.
Oh.
You can take, especially people playing all these 4-color decks now, we're going to see you just take them off of one of their colors and you might really host their entire strategy. Yeah,
you can just look over and how much red mana do you have available? Just 1? Okay, it's gone now.
That kind of Lux is really for me, you know what I mean? To take a page from our girl Lord in the song Royals.
See, I think of this, the joke I want to do is you can either have a regular plain cannon or you can have a Lux cannon with pepperoni, green pepper, and mushroom on it.
No, that's a deluxe cannon.
Oh, yeah. I guess Lux cannon has all the toppings, so that you need to deluxe it.
You need to deluxe it. Do we really need tomatoes on that deluxe?
Yeah, destroy target topping.
Destroy target topping. That's how you lux a pizza. You just take off one of the toppings.
Man, you guys are making me hungry.
Oh, man. I know. I want a pizza. A whole pizza.
Yeah. An Atraxa can
What's
proliferate
Lux, though?
that
What's
pizza.
Lux? That kind of, what is that? Lux.
It's
like
that
luxury?
one girl in League of Legends that shoots the laser.
Yes, okay. That is Lux. In the song Royals, she's talking about luxury, right? Lux. But is that what it is here? Lux? Like luxury cannon?
This is the 1% cannon?
Yeah, it shoots diamond rings at you and fur coats.
In that case, destroy all my permanents, please.
Yeah, please. Yeah, get rid of the awful garbage.
Yes.
Anyways, luxury cannon's great.
My number 1 all-star is Bloodspore Thrynax.
Oh, yeah.
So when I played this deck yesterday, one of the things I found that was something this deck could do is really all of a sudden put a whole lot of counters on one creature sort of out of nowhere. I had an Ishai out, ironically. And I think it had 10 counters on it.
Yeah.
And I played Corpse Jack's Menace, which says anytime you put a +1/+1 counter on something, you put twice that many.
Yeah.
And then I played Deep Glow Skate to double the counter. Yeah, and then I just swung and killed Jimmy, and he was at like 42 or something, and he was just like out of nowhere, just dead. And so I think more effects like that, more effects that sort of like, they're like, okay, that's a little scary, but it's an 11-11, you know, we got a little while. And then you just go boom, boom, no, it's a 50-50, you're dead.
Wow, unreal.
And so Bloodspore Thrynax kind of can pull that kind of thing off too. So it's a 2/2 green for a creature lizard. It has Devour 1, so that means as it enters the battlefield, you may sacrifice any number of creatures, and then this creature enters the battlefield with that many 1/1 counters. So if you sack like 4 creatures, it would get 4 +1/+1 counters on it. And then each other creature you control enters the battlefield with an additional X +1/+1 counters on it, where X is the number of +1/+1 counters on Bloodspore Thrynax.
Yeah.
So if you get it out, get a couple counters on it, proliferate it a couple times, now all of a sudden you can do things where you play a guy and he just starts with, 15 counters or something crazy, because that's the type of thing that decks like this can do. And that can really, if you give it haste, or you can somehow, flash something in, and that can be a sort of get them out of nowhere quality to it.
I definitely added this card to my deck also, and when I saw it listed on your list, I was like, okay, I'll let Josh take this one. But this is probably the number 1 star of my deck also. Yeah. It's just great. It's so both sides of Atraxa, however you want to build her. Love this card. Love this card. And I also want to just profess my love for that particular card.
Yeah, man. I never loved a lizard so much.
Yeah. Did I love a lizard that much? I don't know. I loved Iggy the iguana on Under the Umbrella Tree.
I didn't care for him.
That's a Canadian reference, Josh.
Yeah, I was like, I don't know. I didn't know if it's just generational or okay.
Nah, it's pure Canada. Iggy, Gloria, and what was the Blue Jays' name?
I have no idea.
Daniel. No,
what was the
that.
human's name?
Holly.
Okay.
Man, now it's gonna bug me. Was it just Jay? No, it wasn't. Well, any other Canadian listeners, please write in and tell me. Okay, that's Josh's 3 stars. Bloodsport Thrynax, number 1. Let's talk about mine. Ishai and Rayhan, number 3 star. Inexorable Tide. Hey, guess what? We like proliferating too, and we like it a lot because it's like we want our +1/+1 counters that first spread out over a number of creatures and then build up that way. So the more creatures you have with +1/+1 counters on them, Inexorable Tide will help you get more. It's the enchantment that's 3 and 2 blue, and whenever you cast a spell, you proliferate. So you can proliferate multiple times in a turn. And 5 mana isn't like so much that you can't drop this and then play another smaller spell in the same turn and have your stuff proliferated. It's very, very nice. This is not in the deck though.
Yeah, I think it's one of the cards people were like, well, this automatically goes in, and they were surprised it wasn't in there. I think, this card's amazing in this deck.
Yeah, this is like those like they give you those like easy pitches for new players who are just like they let you find a couple of these yourself, right?
I agree.
Like,
they do for sure. Although they have done a crazy job. We were talking about this before the show too. How like I don't know about you, Josh, but like it was difficult to find cards that I was like, well, I got to take this out and this out and this out. Like they've done a better job every year as it goes by at just making these decks really tight.
Yeah, I think this year of all the years, at least since we've been doing our show, and I've been really breaking these down, this year the decks seemed the best.
Yes, agreed.
They seem the most well-rounded. They also have the most ramp card draw. There's more board wipes on average.
I honestly think it's because they've been listening to your podcast and the other podcasts in the community. There's lots of people from Wizards who are listening. I honestly think that's one of the reasons.
Yeah.
Well, that's flattering if that's true, but I think you're right. I think there's a lot of Commander content out there now as compared to 3 or 4 years ago when there was very little. And so you guys, us, Commander, and the Professor, the Mana Source. I'm sure I'm leaving people out. I'm sorry, but we've been just talking about Commander and sort of Commander theory a lot more, and so they've been. Wizards is a lot of people who are ex-professional players, and they don't have a lot of exposure to multiplayer Magic and Commander in general. And I think, we know some of those people now too. And I've definitely played Commander with people who were on the development team for this set. And I think, I know for a fact some of those people know way more about Commander now than they did 2 or 3 years ago, just by virtue of the fact that there's more stuff and more people talking about it out there.
Cool.
So it's you guys, it's us, it's a lot of different people.
It's the community, right? It's the community
Yeah.
in general that's started having these outlets. Like we didn't really have these before, so now that we can gather around and talk about the latest episode of Command Zone or Commander, and it's like it generates more discussion, and then that's how people see it, whether it's on the subreddit or it's on the comments of a YouTube page or whatever. So yeah, I think it's working.
It's a reason why we always say, like, you guys should definitely be following Commander's Brew on Twitter, and it's not just so that Andy and Sean can feel good about themselves. It's because that's a metric that WotC looks at for, what is the Commander community? How big is it? How passionate are those people about it? Like, how much do we have to cater to them? How much do they care about their format? Things come and go, tiny leaders, things like that, where it's like, if you're Wizards, you have to be careful. You can't invest a lot of time in a format that there's just not a lot of, groundswell support for. And so by doing the things like making sure that you follow your favorite podcast on Twitter and you subscribe to their YouTube channels, and that you're vocal about, being part of that community, that actually increases the quality of the product that is aimed at you later. So anyway, that's my pitch to everybody out there. If you're not following Commander's Brew on Twitter, then you're not fully supporting the Commander community and helping to do things like make these Commander products better. So go follow them.
Yeah, and have a chat on Twitter. It's always lots of fun, and like you said, people occasionally pipe into that and look at those conversations.
Oh great. Yeah, finding new cards and stuff. I love it when people are like, "Have you thought of this card for the deck?"
Oh,
and
that's
amazing.
Stuff is also amazing. It's really great. So yeah, and also it prevents that thing of us saying something wrong and then you screaming at your headphones like in angst because now you can actually tell us.
I feel like it
doesn't prevent
that
it,
at all.
but now it gives you an outlet where you can actually tell us that we screwed up, which people do.
Well, and
you could do that too. Yep.
and it also I mean, it goes along with your point, but it makes us do a better job too, because when we do make those screw ups, we get a lot of people telling us, and I would like to avoid that. I would like to not make those mistakes. So I hold myself to a higher standard because I know people are gonna catch these things.
It makes you sharper.
Yeah.
Yeah. True.
All right. So, anyways, number 2 star of this deck is Shielded by Faith. I believe it wasn't too long ago where we talked about this card. I think it was like 2 episodes ago. But this is one of the probably the best indestructible aura that you have out there. It's 1 and 2 white for an aura that says enchanted creature is indestructible, but it also has whenever a creature enters the battlefield, you may attach Shielded by Faith to that creature. So this is going to be out there, and you can always have it on your best guy as long as you play it after, right? So you run this out on turn 3 on your Fertilid or whatever, and then the next creature you play, just shift it on over, right? This will always be on something that you're happy. And actually, this can be put on your opponent's creatures if you somehow want that. So if they play their commander or something and it somehow is very helpful to your strategy, I mean, we've had that before, where it's like his commander can deal with the person winning, but I know he has an answer for it. So, or the other player has an answer for it. So, you know what? You can have my Shielded by Faith. But guess what? Next time I get to choose if it goes on another creature again.
Yep.
It's not like you give up control of that. So it's a pretty corner case, I think, but it is definitely possible, and it's one that you can use if you need it.
It's not a corner case if you just intend to play politically. Like, it's very strong to just make an obvious ally. I'm going to give you indestructibility. I'm going to take it back eventually, but for now, go nuts. Just not at me.
Yeah, that's true. Yep. And finally, the number 1 star is really Bloodsport Thrynax, but a card that I love, and I love seeing now that it's like popping up in more and more decks, is Temur Sabertooth. This card it's an uncommon that reads like it was a rare, I think, right? Like the power level isn't like super, super high, so I guess that's why it's not a rare, but like the ability it has is so useful. It's 2 and 2 green for a 4/3. It's a creature. It's a cat, so I love it because of that also. I'm wearing a cat t-shirt. It's and the ability it has is 1 and a green. You may return another creature you control to its owner's hand. If you do, Temur Sabertooth gains indestructible until end of turn. So it works really well in this deck because not only can you bounce your commander to your hand, but then put it in the command zone to move the counters around with Rayhan. if you want to do that, or just put it to your hand. Or you bounce something that you don't want to die to your hand when you cast your board wipe, and then Team Sabertooth sticks around and gets the counters. And then you can just replay that thing again. It's got a lot of utility in this deck. Because, again, the main plan is get all these guys out there, board wipe and kill everyone, and then have one guy left. So Team Sabertooth just protects two things that way.
I mean, there's also, the deck has deep glow skate in it. So just replaying that like turn after turn feels like a good idea.
Oh yeah, seems decent, right? Any enter the
decent.
battlefield ability is gonna love Team Sabertooth.
I forgot about this card. This card is excellent.
It's fun and it's one of those cards that people start getting obsessed with a little bit because they know it's so difficult to remove. And I've had it in games where it's not what's going to kill you at all. Like it's going to help protect this thing, and it's going to be a little bit of an engine, although not an unstoppable crazy engine. You still have to recast the creature you're bouncing or whatever. But people would get so obsessed with how hard it is to remove that that's all they care about, and it's totally distracted them from the other things that I'm doing.
Yep.
I've seen that a few times. Anyways, it's a great card.
The greatest trick the Sabertooth ever pulled was making them
eating
think.
pizza.
Yes.
The deluxe Sabertooth. In building these, often we'll find surprises, some little discoveries. Josh, did you have anything that you discovered? Sometimes we don't have anything, so it's not a big deal if you didn't find anything.
Yeah, I don't know if I discovered anything. I did have one card that was sort of on the fringes, and I cut it, but I think it's still good, was Mindless Automaton. So it's just another... so Josh, you just can't get away with how you build decks, right?
Yep,
You can't build
you
decks like somebody else. So it comes in with 2 +1/+1 counters. It's a 4-mana cost artifact. You can pay 1 to discard a card and put a 1/1 counter on it. And then you can remove 2 counters to draw a card. So it was just another card kind of like Etched Oracle.
Yeah.
Where, I just always feel like if I take the precons and I give it enough card draw and mana ramp, they've already put in a lot of big flashy stuff because that's what people get excited about. Like if you do spoiler season for Commander 2016 and all it is cards that draw you cards and ramp, like no one's excited. But you have to put in like big flashy stuff that's like, oh man, if I get that out, I'm going to kill everybody. So they've already got that covered. I just need to make sure that I draw those cards and have enough mana to cast them.
Fundamentals win games.
Yep.
Absolutely. I also cut my card that I considered a surprise or a discovery, and it's Evolution Vat.
This is a good one.
I cut it because it's very weird and not very mana efficient, but it can be very good. It's 3 generic for an artifact. You pay 3, you tap it. You can pay 3, tap it, tap target creature, and put a +1/+1 counter on it. And then until end of turn, that creature gains 2 green/blue, double the number of +1/+1 counters on this creature. So 7 in total if you want to do that to your own creature.
It kind of turns him into a Solarian, right?
Yeah, a little bit, exactly. And you have to pay as much as you would for a Solarian.
Well, it doesn't have to be untapped.
No.
To do it. So I'm just gonna tap my Gyre Sage for 12 mana and just add a blue each activation.
There
you
go.
The next time I do it, I've got a Gyre Sage with over 40 counters on it.
So you pay 1.
I didn't even think about the not have to be tapped thing. That makes it quite a bit better because you can attack with 4 different creatures.
Yes.
And the one that they don't block, you can sort of do this to.
It costs a lot, right? It costs a lot.
I didn't think about that though. It makes it much stronger. I think it's much closer to playable because I did think about this for my deck too.
It is monstrous with Gyre Sage though. You're right, Sean. It's nuts. You tap it, you add the mana to your mana pool, and then next turn you're going to get double that, and all of a sudden this thing is basically free. You know?
Yeah, Gyre Sage only gives you green, but it's just I don't know, for every 3 counters on Gyre Sage, you just need 1 blue to double something. And it's I also feel at least for the partners build, I think we can safely assume we're usually dealing with 10 counters or so. So doubling, you don't need to double 10 more than once very often.
No, not very often. So it's a neat card, and I ended up cutting it. But I think you can make an argument for it at the very least.
Can I pitch you one final card?
Please do.
Okay, so I was playing around with this one too. I think it might be better in your deck than in mine. It's Animation Module.
Oh yeah.
Okay.
So it's a 1-mana artifact. You can, it says whenever 1 or more 1/1 counters are placed on a permanent you control, you can pay 1. If you do, you create a 1/1 colorless servo artifact. And then you can also pay 3 and tap the animation module. And then you choose a counter on target permanent or player, and give that permanent or player another counter of that type.
Oh, yes, of course. You're going to want this in all your charge counter stuff, but also, like, the more guys you have, the more this adds.
Right. If you're making a 1/1 counter, you sort of make another guy. And you can get into loops where if you have durable handicraft or something like that, something that automatically puts a counter on something, well, the servo gets created, you pay the extra mana for durable handicraft, that puts a counter on it, then you can make another servo because of that, and you can sort of go on like that. Or if you have Cathar's Crusade or some of the other cards in the deck. Yeah, Bloodsport Thrynax, Master Biomancer, I think, is in the deck. Yep. Cards like that just automatically, it enters, it gets counters. Now I just pay 1, I'm making a guy, it enters, it gets counters. I pay 1, I make a guy, it enters, it gets counters. And they're cards that are getting counters, so maybe you're making 1 mana 4/4s or something. You know, you might, if I've got 9 mana, I'll go ahead and make 9 1 mana 4/4s.
Yeah, this just chains off. You're right. This is crazy in the Rayhan deck.
Yeah, I think it's pretty good.
Ooh, animation module. Another Kaladesh card coming through.
Yeah. One of the things I really like to look for too is 1-drops, 2-drops also, but usually my ramp's at 2. But you know, most decks just don't have a single thing they want to play on 1.
That's
and
true.
If you can find one, then you're just, you know, you can be quite a bit ahead on turn 4 or 5 just because you played a 1-drop that's doing something, whereas most people didn't. You know, obviously Soul Ring, but screw those people.
Well, I mean, you can still play your Soul Ring and then just play this.
That's a really good point. Yeah.
Okay, wicked. So let's before we get to the budget report, we're going to talk about Wizards Tower just real quick. WizardTower.com, obviously. Use our coupon code Tower of Brews. That'll get you 5% off on any of your singles orders. $15 or more, right? Yeah, and you can also order from the States. They got a U.S. store now. So also you can pre-release you can pre-order Aether Revolt already. Isn't that crazy?
Yeah, not the singles because we don't know what they are, but
of course, but the sealed product.
Sure.
Yeah, so that's neat. So yeah, get on there, wizardtower.com, and check us out on Sean and I both write articles for MTG Canada.
Yeah.
Which is their like content site, basically. It's like all linked together. But yeah, MTG Canada, one from Sean up this week. It's cool. Get over there and check them out. Okay, let's now get to the budget report.
Our telemetry is on point.
Good. This is where we take all the cards, we melt them down, we remove all the +1 counters on them, and put them all on one card. Which card is that? We'll tell you.
That sounds great. That sounds perfect for what I want to do.
Yeah.
With
it's
this
your
deck.
credit card.
Yeah, exactly. We'll melt down your credit card.
And for the low interest rate of 18.9%, you can pay us back in +1 counters over as long as you want.
So we've talked about a lot of these cards already, but let's just quickly go over which are the most expensive ones. Josh, what's your deck looking like? Oh, so here's what I did. So I took yours and I put it into the one we use, which is like the goldfish counter or whatever.
Yeah.
And you're actually over budget.
Oh man, I'm 88 cents over.
You are.
I was using TCG Player.
Right. So yeah. Well, of course, there's like you'll get different prices from lots of different places.
Yeah, and also if you listen to this 2 weeks later, this will be different anyway.
Exactly.
And also, it's very, very not ironic that I'm over budget because I never stay on budget with any deck I've ever built in my entire life.
Yeah.
True to form.
True to form, yeah.
Yeah.
And you know what? We've been over budget before, so not a big deal at all. But what's the most expensive cards?
Number 1 is Lux Cannon.
Yeah.
Number 2, Sage of Hours. And number 3 is Hangerback Walker.
Yeah, and they're all hovering around like 2 something, right? Like they're not...
Yeah.
Yeah, they're obviously not like... We're not breaking the bank on any of these cards, but they're all
I didn't
around
say
250
Glenalendra or anything.
No, exactly. Which... Oh,
By the way, add Glenalendra to the deck.
Yeah, of
By
course.
the way,
definitely add Glenalendra Archmage. Did it get printed in these cards? No, it didn't. Did it? It didn't get printed in a deck.
No, it's like $15. They wouldn't do that.
Wait, they printed Colonian Hydra. That card was like $16.
Was it?
Yeah, it was up there.
I didn't realize it.
Maybe it wasn't. Maybe it was like 12 or something. But it was definitely more than $10.
When we did our deck tech, Jimmy was like, "Well, you should take this card out of the deck." And I didn't want to say anything at the time, but I don't think you should take it out of the deck. I think it's really good.
What, Glenalendra?
No, Colonian Hydra.
Oh, Colonian Hydra. Oh man, that card's crazy.
Yeah, I mean, if it just swings one time, you're going to win.
Yeah, exactly. That's worth the risk. Only 5 tickets. Magic Online, the editions that Josh made. Mine came in at around $13, and only about 1.8 tickets online.
The online one's tough because we have no idea what the main commanders, like the exclusive ones, are going to be. Like, they'll be like 20 tickets.
They're always pretty expensive, yeah. But for me, the number one most expensive card was Shielded by Faith, which again we talked about a couple weeks ago. It's like, it's up and around $2, pushing $3 these days. Next was Bastion Protector, which is like $250, which is interesting because I'm the only printing it ever has. It's the same thing as Shielded by Faith that is in the Commander product. And then finally a Green Warden of Murasa, which I also added because you want to get some of those board wipes back, because that's a key thing for us. Or just any other great card, and Green Warden is one of the best ways to do it, and while being a big dude himself, so that's great.
Yeah, especially if you plan on sacrificing things, it basically get something twice.
Exactly.
I'm glad we mentioned Bastion Protector again, because when I said there was a cycle of them, I was getting it confused with the Lieutenant cycle from 2 years ago.
Oh, yes.
That say, as long as you control your commander, then the Lieutenant does blah, blah, blah. So, but those do work with the partner commanders doubly, I guess. Not as good as Bastion Protector, obviously.
Yeah, they got 2 bosses.
Oh, that's fun. Yeah, you can have either one of them out.
Yep.
You know what? I knew this when I saw those cards, but the Lieutenant cycle was one I really liked because some of them were really great and some of them were just okay. But I was like, man, why don't they bring that cycle back again? Why don't you print 5 new lieutenants? I think that would be really good because those cards were fun, and like the green one's really good, and I remember the red one was fun, although a lot of people were like, whatever, it's just okay. But I always find it to be have a pretty big impact when you play that card in a game. Anyways, I love the lieutenant cycle, and I wish they would make more of them.
They should make a captain cycle.
What does he do if you have your lieutenant out?
Yeah, if you have your lieutenant and your commander out, it does something crazy.
Yeah,
it just do something awesome. Yeah,
just goes down the chain of command.
Yeah,
your ensign card, your cadet.
Yeah,
you need to have 20 other cards out if you have your cadet.
But if you do, your cadet wins the game, which is like ironic because you'd think the general would.
Yeah.
I do wish they would revisit some of the old mechanics. They seem hesitant to do that for whatever reason. And if only for the reason that it would make me feel like, partner may come back and may, like, I'd like to be able to think that someday they'll make, 5 new partner commanders or something.
You know what?
And
I think you can probably, I'm going to say that's a fairly safe bet. I'll take that bet. Because, join forces and things, it's hard in the design space of some of these because they want it to be like, it has to feel like the color. But there's no reason, like, I don't see why partners should have any restriction as long as they're just aware that they don't make any, like, 2-card infinite combos, which they seem to be good at. None of the partner commanders seem to be so powerful that they're broken.
Yeah.
They're just very good.
Yeah.
I think Kadeli or Kadeli or however you say it.
Kydel,
yeah,
maybe.
Who knows?
I think she's kind of broken.
Kind of broken, but not like there's levels of broken in our format. I don't think giving more partners though. I don't think there's a risk of making her too broken.
Yeah, true. Anyway, whatever. They can't be scared of making broken stuff. There's already a ton of broken stuff in the format. I hope they will revisit some of their better mechanics, because I don't think they've revisited any yet, right?
No, I don't think so.
None of the exclusive ones, yeah.
No joined forces, no like tempting offers, no lieutenants, nothing like that. I don't think.
Come on, Wizards, someday.
Yeah, I mean, hey, listen, you're doing a great job. Don't get us wrong, but those are also fun mechanics that maybe don't be afraid to mess around with again.
Don't be scared.
Okay, cool. So yeah, that's the decks. Those are the episodes, and the episodes. Those are the episodes. This one episode we did. We got to say thanks very much to our guest, Josh Lee Kwai. Holy, like Josh, what a treat it was having you here. Thanks very much for doing it.
It was really awesome, you guys. Thanks for having me on. I'm glad we finally got to do it, and we'll have to have you guys on Command Zone soon.
Oh, would love to, of course.
Indeed.
Again, for me and for the first time for Sean, it'd be great. How can people get a hold of you?
Was it the Rubbins? That was the Rubbins.
That was the Rubbins. That was me being like, Sean, you've never done it. Bye.
We'll get you on, Sean.
Great.
We'll get you on without Andy. Watch this.
Oh,
Yeah. Oh, no.
Yeah, and we'll have pizza.
Oh man. I have had pizza with the Command Zone guys, Sean.
Okay. Well, then we'll have shepherd's pie. I don't know.
But was it deluxe pizza?
Yeah.
It was something, all right. That's for sure.
Or was it Lux pizza?
Oh, Lux Pizza.
Yeah, diamond pizza.
Luxury
And my teeth
pizza.
still hurts.
Yeah.
I'll have luxury pizza, no problem. Josh, give us your breakdown, your Twitters, your all that. What can people get you?
You can find me on Twitter at Josh Lee Kwai. You can find my podcast, The Command Zone, at CommandCast or on YouTube. Or we started a new site with our sister podcast, The Masters of Modern, and it's collected.company.
Genius
So if you go to
URL, by
Go
the
to
way.
collected.company. You can find all our episodes there, or of course iTunes, Stitcher, and the rest.
Right on. And do that. If somehow you don't listen to the Command Zone podcast and you've somehow found us some other way, you absolutely have to, because it's the best Commander podcast around. Everyone knows it. Thanks.
We've definitely had people find us from your show. We've heard from people like, "Hey, I heard about you guys from Commander's Brew." So
Really?
yeah.
Cool.
Yeah, that's definitely happened. So we
Wow.
appreciate that. We try and send as many people as we can your way. So
Well, we'll send them all your way. That's for sure.
Yeah, man. I'll tie back to that point you made earlier. The more Commander players playing Commander there are, the better our format gets.
100%.
Yeah.
Yep.
All right, Josh. Thanks a lot, and we'll be back in a bit with a Commander interview. We're going to do that as always. Okay.
Hello, welcome to Lux Pizza. Can I help you?
Yes, I flew in because I noticed your walk-in special. I hope you don't mind I flew in. I know it is a walk-in special, but my boss, Ojitai, I speak to Ojitai. I'm Ojitai's direct. Maybe you've heard of Ojitai. Anyway, it's very important we get this pizza soon. It's got to be hot, and it's got to be crispy.
Hey, guys. Hey guys, sorry, it's me, Andy Hull from the Commander's Brew
this
podcast.
is Andy.
Hi.
Showed up a little late. Didn't realize you guys were going to be meeting here in this pizza place. Is that what we're?
Yeah,
I'm here for the interview. Sorry, Sean couldn't be here. He's actually getting he's buying a brand new camper van.
I got a lot of errands for Ojitai, Andy. You got to keep up if you want this interview, okay?
Sorry about that.
Okay.
Oh yeah. So also, you sir, you work here, correct?
Yeah. Do you guys want to order a pizza or something?
Yes. Ojitai needs a pizza. It's got to be extra large. One half of it needs to have hex-proof beef, and the other half needs to have +1/+1 green peppers on it.
Do you call that?
Wait.
Here?
This is for Oshu. What was the name again?
Ojutai. O-J-U.
Oh.
Okay.
Okay. +1/+1.
Yeah.
Do you want? We have a special today on. You can add diamonds.
I'm listening.
This is a very luxury pizza. I just want to let you guys know that. Ojutai's into this? I thought he was like about the people.
Ojutai's about the people, like when it's work time, but when it's fun time, Ojutai's about the relaxed time.
Ojutai wants fur coats on his pizza.
Great.
Is that right?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. We'll upgrade. And I'd like a garlic dipping sauce, please.
And a garlic dipping sauce. What size of pizza would you
A
like?
dragon size.
Dragon size. Okay.
That makes sense.
Yeah, that's no problem. Unfortunately, there's been a big rush on pizzas. A whole bunch of Mardu came in here earlier, so it's going to be a bit of a wait.
You know
Is
what?
that okay?
Well, I knew I should have gone to the one in the Jeskai territory, right? But okay, you know what? That's fine. I will wait. I do have to get Ojutai's pants pressed, but I'll just be a little late on that.
Okay, so that's no problem. It won't be a long time because this timeline's ending at any point. So on the alternate timeline, then I can get it to you a little faster.
Oh yeah, don't worry though. Rayhan's in the car, so when we disappear, all those +1/+1 encounters will go somewhere.
Hurry up! Hurry up, guys!
Rayhan, calm down.
Hurry up! It doesn't matter. Whatever pizza you get, I'm just going to get it after.
Rayhan loves seconds on the pizza.
She's loud. She's a loud person, and I am not excited about getting back in that camper van with her.
Should we tell her that she's the last of the Obzon?
Let's keep that. Let's keep that secret for now. I feel like that would just bum her out a lot.
Anyway, thank you for the order. What do I owe you for this?
This costs approximately infinite mana.
What? That's
Infinite.
That's a lot.
No, I think we can do this. Hang on. Okay, let me see here. I got a sort
For
of
one pizza.
Well, yeah, I might have that. I got a sort of
How
the meek
on earth
here.
are you going to make it?
Sort of the meek here, and then if I get a skull clamp going, I don't have a
You need a
Ashnod's
Thopter-
altar.
You need a Thopter foundry for that, I think.
Well, those aren't in my colors. Can we put this on credit?
Sure.
Can we actually just put this on gemstone array?
Oh, gemstone array. You didn't say you had one of those. Definitely.
Yeah.
Gemstone
Okay.
array
Great.
will do it.
Great.
Excellent. And
Infinite
you know what?
mana
And you
for
know
one
what?
pizza.
May I have your name again? I want to talk to your supervisor and say what an excellent job you've been doing.
Yeah. What's your obvious Tarkir themed name again?
It's Josh Genghis Khan.
Jongus Khan.
Genghis Khan. Okay.
Jongus. Okay. Well, it was nice meeting you, Jongus. You make
It was nice to meet you as well.
You make a mean infinite mana costing pizza. I'll tell you that.
Well,
much.
you did have fur coats and diamonds. You know, if you don't want those, then I can lower the price.
Hey man, if infinite mana isn't luxury, I don't know what is. Ishai, thanks for letting me follow you into this pizza place.
No problem. Let's get back in that van.
And Jongus, thanks for serving this bird her pizza.
No problem. Of course. Tell Oshu I said hello.
Oh wait. Oh dear.
Okay.
Oh, dear.
All right. Okay. All right. We're out of here.
If you want to contact us, you can do so on Twitter at Commanders Brew. Individually, we are
At Andy Hobone.
and I'm at Sean Tabaris. Or send us a Gmail, commandersbrew@gmail.com.
Also, you can check out all of our decks on tappedout.net/users/commandersbrew. And you can go to patreon.com if you'd like to donate and help support the show.
And if you want to check all this out in one place, go to commandersbrew.com for all this info.